Hello and welcome to episode 156 of Glitch Report. My name is GnittWitt. Thank you so much for stopping by, saying hi, kicking it with me today on the stream of dreams, the show of shows, and everything in between. You can find everything that I do over at my Linktree. That is linktree.com/GnittWitt. GnittWitt. I am on Threads, Instagram, Blue Sky, TikTok, and YouTube. And this podcast is available wherever you get your podcasts. So if you have a friend who gets podcasts somewhere else, be like, hey, when you go to get your podcasts, consider Glitch Report. It's going to be a hot one today. I was looking at the weather forecast, and it's going to be a hot one today. It is Wednesday, September 3rd, as of the time of this recording, 10:44 a.m. on the dot, and it's supposed to be a hot one today. I was looking at about 30 degrees Celsius, which is not ideal for me. I think I've complained about the weather for weeks and weeks now. Here's the problem with me, the weather, the temperature. I am an indoor cat, so there is a healthy amount of guilt that I experience when the weather is desirable, when it's nice, and I am not out there to experience it because I'm an indoor cat. I would rather curl up with a game or a movie or a TV show, basically. And maybe I use the term indoor cat as a crutch to say that I am a filthy couch potato, but it is what it is. Like, what am I going to do? Turn my life around and work out and eat better? And what are you, crazy? You think I'm going to just like improve my life and maybe get some goddamn vitamin D for once? I'm out of your mind. It's not going to happen. That being said, I think the indoor cat activities, the couch potato activities that I typically get into tend to be ones that are disrupted or less enjoyable the warmer it gets. So if you'll excuse me for this brief rant for this segment of the show, I'm not looking forward to it. I thought we were done. It's September. September shouldn't be 30-degree weather, but what do I know? What I do know is we're going to do this show out of order this week. The reason for that is because Skate, which is coming out September 16th, the NDAs, the non-disclosure agreements for Skate have lifted. So those of us that have been playing Skate during its pre-alpha early access testing phase can now talk about the game. Now, I'm going to say a couple things up front just to get the timeline of this down before I tell you more about the game. I have had access to Skate since about November. I remember like they were taking signups on their website and all that stuff, and I signed up. I got in. I got a friend of mine got in as well. I sent out a invite to a friend. I don't even know if they played it, but they had it. They have it. They could probably figure out a way to open up some emails, and they could probably make it happen if they want to right now. That all being said, the version of the game that I played in November is different than the version that is available now. So what EA has done is they've updated the game. They've done this and done that over the months and stuff since I've had access to the game. My understanding is those that had early access are basically playing. If you had access and you load up Skate right now, you are getting access to the version of the game that everyone else is going to be playing on September 6th. Now, with all of that said, there is every possibility that did I say September 6th? September 16th. So what I'm saying is there's every possibility that between now and September 16th, the folks over at EA flip some switch or update the game or do something that potentially radically changes what I have access to now, which isn't too dissimilar to what I played in November, and I'll share more in a moment. So just keep all of that in mind. Like, it's a weird scenario where this game is basically entering some sort of pre-alpha early access. Like, this game is according to them, very much undone, very much unfinished, but is launching for everyone to be able to play September 16th. And like I said, my understanding is that the version of the game that I have access to right now is going to be the version that everybody can play come September 16th. What does that mean? To me, what this means is that this game is in a worse shape than I would have expected, having seen the game and just having a basic understanding of the expectations people have when a game enters early access. You don't typically see a game enter early access that is quite as raw as Skate. But the problem with the uncooked cookie dough that is Skate is it's not just unfinished, it's also not very good. So in my experience so far, I'm pretty disappointed in the current state of Skate. I will say that right here, right now. I think if this is the game that comes out September 16th, this is a bad video game. Look, I'm not sitting here being like, oh, isn't it so funny? Oh, GnittWitt, oh, just get to shit on a video game. Like, I have been excited for Skate for a very long time. I went back and played Skate 3 on the Xbox cloud computing, the xCloud thing, whatever they call it. Skate has occupied a good part of my mind for years now, more or less ever since they announced that they were doing this. So I was very game to be excited about Skate. And I think there's this is a whole other ball of wax that we're going to try to unravel in a moment. But like, I think some people get into like a toxic positivity mindset about like, oh, well, this is it. I mean, it was either this or nothing, in terms of we were either going to get this Skate game or we weren't going to get any. And like, I recognize that, but like, come on, we should expect better, or demand better, I should say. So here's the problem with Skate right now is it's quite buggy. Like I have, had issues of falling through the world. I've had issues where text doesn't disappear on the screen after like a menu prompt. I've seen challenges in the game not load properly. I've had challenges try to load multiplayer. So multiplayer like missions when I selected a single player mission. It's quite buggy, but the frame of what Skate is it is a free to play open world online multiplayer game that you can, ignore a lot of the multiplayer components and just skate by yourself. You make a character, you go through the tutorials, and you eventually get dumped into, once you get through the tutorials, you get dumped into the main world where you can freely skate around the world as you see fit and just, hop up on a rail, grind a park bench or, railing or, find like skate parks that have, vert ramps, and you can do all that stuff. Right. But the game also does have a progression system to it where you are basically going through different territories of the world. Like the world is kind of marked up in like 3 or 4 different districts. And you are going through and being like, oh, I've completed the challenges in this district and it's earned me enough progress to get cosmetics and clothing options and skate options for the character. And I'll eventually unlock maybe other challenges in other districts. Now, I will say that like my progression has been deleted, multiple times as I've played through the game in November. And that's fine. Like I knew going into this that like there was a very good chance that whatever I did was going to be undone multiple times over the course of Skate being in development. What I wasn't expecting though is how poor of a progression system they ended up going with. Like to me, I was always like, well, I really don't care if the progression gets wiped because the progression system doesn't seem that interesting anyways. And then this is the progression system that they have been, using now for a while. And it feels lifeless. And you'll notice me kind of use the phrase lifeless to describe a lot of elements of Skate. But in my opinion, This is a profoundly lifeless game, not just in the context of free-to-play early access games from major corporations and publishers, but also from the Skate franchise. And before anyone comes out here and tries to tell me that I had the wrong expectations for Skate, that I, assumed the wrong things, when they announced that it was going to be a free-to-play online multiplayer game, I knew right then and there that we were going to be getting a game that more or less mechanically felt like Skate, but was going to have a different presentation and a different progression system, a different cosmetic unlock process. Like, it was going to be different in the wrappings and the trappings of the game. But I assumed that they were going to at least nail down the part where you used the left analog stick to move the skateboarder and the right analog stick to do the tricks. And guess what? They nailed the feel of the game for the most part. But really the problem is everything else surrounding the game is just unfinished, uninspired, or straight up bad. Like that is it. I would have taken like a good version of whatever they were trying to do, but at this moment right now, they have missed the mark on whatever they were trying to do. That's really where it's at. So when you go through the districts and you're, doing these challenges, you're earning points that you can put into various unlock trees, for lack of a better word. Like, basically, you'll be in the downtown district, and the downtown district has like 5 different progression trees that you unlock over time, and you can spend points on those trees, but you're just opening loot boxes. You're just opening a box that says, okay, you can open this box 10 times, and every time you open it, we're going to give you a different item from that collection of items until you unlock everything, and then you're done. And the items are bad. It's like, here's a gray sweatshirt. Here's a yellow, like paint job for the bottom of your skateboard. Like, none of it is branded, which I think you would try to include branded, licensed, products in a skateboarding game where corporate sponsorships are a big thing. I can't believe I'm sitting here being like, I wish there was more product placement in this game. The problem is that they are selling the real branded product placement ad-based items like shoes and shirts and stuff for real money. So if you want the real Vans skateboard shoes, there is a chance that you will have to pony up some real money to get those, because you may not be able to unlock them in the game. Now, this is just an example. I'm not saying that like there are no Vans skate shoes that you can't unlock in the game, or Nike hats or what. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that from what I've seen so far, the majority of the stuff that I've seen that has been branded has been tied to real money purchases and not unlockable progression systems. So I'm sitting there and I'm like in the downtown area and I'm like, okay, I can do a bunch of these challenges. I could do a bunch of these challenges that I don't think are very good. The other problem is I don't think the goals are very inspired. I don't think the goals are very interesting, and they don't even seem to do a very good job of taking advantage of the districts and environments they set themselves in. I think the city is okay. Like, if you could skate from one end of the city to the other. It's a very small city. I will say it's a much smaller world than skatable surface of the world than what Skate 3 or Skate 2 had to offer, and things like that. But I don't think the challenges are particularly interesting. Unfortunately, it feels it just kind of all feels flat. So here's the problem right now before we go any further with the game. We have events and challenges that you complete as part of the story, for lack of a better word, that gives you currency to unlock cosmetics for your skateboarder that don't even look very good and aren't even interesting. only so that you can do more challenges that aren't very good and aren't very interesting, so that you can unlock cosmetics and, clothing items for your skateboarder that aren't very good and aren't very interesting. You run into a scenario where you think, why would I want to engage in a vast majorities of the systems in this game? Right. And when it comes to the online multiplayer portion of it, I don't even see that many people in the game. And when I do, they're like in crowded areas in the, like, there's like the skate shop where you can get your, new shoes and new hats and stuff. It has like a physical location in the game, so you can walk up to it. And that's where I find most of the people is just like in menus staring at this, store. And I'm like, okay, so I guess I'm not going to see like that. Like, I'll see some people, but I just don't see a lot. It doesn't feel, and there's no pedestrians on the street. I could be, listen, if someone wants to correct me, I'd love to be wrong, but I don't think there's any pedestrians in the streets, but there are cars. So there's maybe a handful of skateboarders that you're going to run across actually skateboarding in the world that are supposed to be real people. Following that up with cars, it's just like, is this the apocalypse? Like, what is like, they already made a skate game that took place in the apocalypse. But like, what the hell's going on? Someone tell me what is wrong with San Vansterdam, which is the name of the city. What else is there to really say about skate? I think the progression system is worthless, because now it's a problem where like I understand, like, especially in like an online multiplayer game, you want to play dress up. You want to be the coolest looking skater. You want to have the sickest looking outfit while also performing tricks. It's what makes, Fortnite such a popular game. Oh, look at this guy. He's so cool. He got the John Cena outfit or whatever. Call of Duty. Oh, this guy is Beavis and Butthead or whatever. Like, there is and I don't sound so stupid because like it doesn't do anything in the game, but like the whole thing about the online multiplayer fashion game of dress up is not only the fear of missing out, but also the peer pressure of like, well, I should probably go buy something so that I can look cool too. In the case of skate, so far, nothing that is worth unlocking is worth putting on your character. And I'm not going to spend real money on a game that I don't think is very good to begin with. So it just feels like a failure to launch. And I shouldn't say failure to launch because that's harsh. The game's technically not even out yet. But I look at this as a game that, like, I don't know if I would return to this game. Like, morbid curiosity got the better of me last night. I loaded it back up and I was like, nope, this is still like what I, dropped. Like when the version was that we're supposed to all get came out, I loaded it up and I was like, oh, this game actually hasn't changed that much since what I played. And the reason why I kind of go back and forth on even mentioning if it's, my time with the game prior to where we're at right now is because you shouldn't care what this game was like before it came out. You should only care what this game is like now. Like, I feel like this game is actually kind of broken early access for me because I have become a firm believer that you should not care what a video game promises. You should care about what a video game offers right now. I've been going back and forth with a friend of mine talking about early access, and if the term early access actually means anything, if it is worth a damn whatsoever. And unfortunately, and maybe he can, if he listens to the show, he can write in, text me, whatever. I feel like the problem with early access right now is that it's not as well defined as it could be. I think the problem we run into right now is a scenario where some people are going to say, well, this game feels unfinished. This game doesn't. And I literally just said, you should care more about what a game has to offer right now than what a game promises. So I get it. If you looked at, the Assassin's Creed Shadows roadmap and said, well, this game's unfinished, I'll wait for them to put horizontal and vertical adjacent so that I can climb better or whatever. Okay, fine. But then at some point, like, do we have to actually redefine what early access means? does a game like Borderlands 4 deserve to have the early access label slapped onto it as they add stuff over the next 6 months into the game? And in the case of Borderlands, they've already announced that they're going to have both free updates and paid updates coming to that game, and the game's not even out yet. Right? So I understand that early access is supposed to mean a level of polish, but some games don't even launch with that. Like No Man's Sky did not launch with the polish that it has now. Cyberpunk 2077 did not launch with the polish that it has now. Baldur's Gate 3, while it might have been a polished experience, did not even have all of the features that people wanted it to have when it exited early access into the main 1.0 release. So folks, what are we doing here? Like, at what point do we have to find a better way to describe the unfinished state that video games enter, right? Whether it be this idea that like early access is going to be a lot more riddled with bugs or frame rate issues or graphical issues or whatever, and a 1.0 release means we're going to add quality of life features up. Then let's find words like words are. I recognize that like facts do not matter in the world that we live in. I know that the truth does not matter, that classical definitions or tradition or modern definitions of word. Like, I know that nothing matters in this world anymore, right? Like the truth does not matter. Facts don't matter. Nothing matters anymore. I recognize that. But is there a chance that we can find a way to describe the difference between a game entering early access, like Skate, and a game that is going to be promising a roadmap of updates and features like Borderlands? And oh, by the way, they announced a roadmap of updates and features coming to Skate over time. So like, where is the line? I would love to know. I am dying to know. But I would say right now, like, Skate feels like a game for people who just want to skate around the city and not think about anything else that this game is trying to offer, which to me seems like a total failure of the game. Like, wouldn't EA want me to care about the way my skater looks? Wouldn't EA want me to be invested in the progression systems that they have so that I could buy into a battle pass or something like that, or take part in seasonal events, limited time events, whatever? But so far it has just so profoundly missed the mark. It feels unfinished. It feels soulless. And hey, people are going to be like, oh, well, of course it's unfinished. It's an early access. If September 16th rolls around and the same version that I've been playing right now is the version that everybody plays, that game is in worse state than it deserves to be in for the access that it is given to people and the money that they are charging for premium currency and all of that stuff. It's just not, it's not good enough. Like, if you have lower standards, or if you're willing to look past, the issues that I have described in Skate, that's fine. More power to you. I look at this and say, this is pathetic. This isn't good enough. I don't know what they're doing. This feels like a game that's being sent out to die. This feels like a game that is trying to cater to the hardest of hardcore Skate fans in the hopes that everybody just takes weird, goofy videos and uploads them to social media like they've been doing with Skate 3 and Skate 2 to a lesser extent, and then just hoping that's what attracts people. Okay, but the character models don't even look good. My character, like the created character, like none of the character models look great. The hair is all weird looking. The faces aren't amazing. Like, why it's so hard to imagine a scenario where I care about this game based on the current state that it's in, which seems like a bad place to be when you are trying to launch a game in early access in the hopes that it'll rally the troops and get people excited about the next 6 weeks, let alone 6 months of what Skate has to offer. Whew. All right. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we got news. Stick around. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the podcast. I continue to be GnittWitt, and as of right now, as of the time of this recording, it's 11:13 a.m. as we record this. PlayStation is having a state of play. It's happening right now, and it is focused on James Bond 007 First Light. So I will try to monitor the situation as best I can while this is happening. Maybe by the end of the show, we'll have more to say. But I'm going to say this right now, looking at what they have to show, and I don't mean this in a bad way or anything like that. Like, it just, it is. It is what it is, and what it is so far, it looks like they're making a it looks like they're making a Hitman game. It looks like this is actually way more Hitman than maybe I was even expecting to a large extent. And that's fine. There's nothing like wrong with Hitman or anything like that, but I'm like a little surprised of like, oh, this is Hitman. Anyways, that's not to say that the game doesn't look bad or anything like that. It's just that, there's a lot to kind of cover as we, oh God, I screwed this up. I'm trying to load the stream at the same time. Oh, that's the wrong desktop. That's why. So I don't have the audio going, but if you're watching the video version of the stream, it's like, him stealing a car and all this other stuff. And then like his lady companion is like, hey, I have the keys. And anyways, I'm going to close this. I'm going to close this tab now before I get too distracted. Oh, so it's like a getaway driver thing. Anyways, long story short, go check that out if you want to. We'll probably talk more about it when it's done or on next week's podcast. But yeah, the PlayStation State of Play for 007 First Light is literally happening right now as we speak. Okay, let's move on to talking about news. I can now cut one of the news stories because that was one I was going to talk about. But here we are with some news. We talked about this a little while ago, but that the Xbox reboot of Perfect Dark was being canceled. That the folks over at Crystal Dynamics were no longer going to be working on the game, along with the Initiative, who were working on the game as well. With Crystal Dynamics being an Embracer Group owned studio, but the Initiative being a Microsoft owned studio, kind of this joint venture sort of thing. So the game was canceled. Despite being featured at last summer's Xbox showcase, more details kind of come out around that, which I find really interesting. Take-Two, the Grand Theft Auto publisher, was in talks, but those talks reportedly collapsed. They were in talks to save the game, but the publisher had some problems around who would take ownership of the IP going forward. So this is from Video Games Chronicles. As always, shout out to Video Games Chronicles. Andy Robinson kind of, reporting on Jason Schreier's reports stating that the talks between Microsoft and Take-Two collapsed, resulting in an unspecified number of layoffs at Crystal Dynamics last month. According to Bloomberg sources, Take-Two was in discussions with Microsoft and Embracer to fund and publish the game, but the deal collapsed in part because the companies were unable to come to terms over long-term ownership of the Perfect Dark franchise. That's pretty much it. Embracer was, kind of doing stuff. Microsoft was doing stuff. Take-Two was ready to come in with the bag of money, but no one could agree on the ownership. And I think what makes this so gross, it is the natural state of things in this business. I recognize that. But I think what is so profoundly gross to me is I believe Microsoft are the owners of the Perfect Dark franchise. So Microsoft are the owners of the Perfect Dark franchise. They were canceling the game And I imagine that if they're canceling this game, it means that they have no plans on making another Perfect Dark game anytime soon, which then begs the question, do they even really care who the owner of Perfect Dark is if the Perfect Dark franchise actually gets to live and breathe in some way, shape, or form with a new game actually coming out, and then perhaps future, sequels and all that stuff? Like, I get it. These companies, especially Microsoft, are going to hoard, the IP when it comes to games and franchises and all of that stuff, and they can choose to use them or not. Like, think about the classic Activision games that Microsoft owns that we'll probably never see anything from ever again, right? Because they're in a business of, we want to make billions off of our game. We don't want to make a million here or there. We want to make billions and billions off the biggest possible games that we can, make. And it wasn't going to be Perfect Dark, so it'll probably never be Perfect Dark again. But it's just a scenario where, and listen, I'm throwing a lot of blame at Microsoft. I think a lot of people would probably be willing to throw a lot of the blame at Microsoft. I don't know what Embracer's, deal was with this game besides having Crystal Dynamics work on it. I imagine that, Embracer was excited to have their team work on something. Excuse me. Embracer was excited for their team to work on something that they didn't have to, handle 100% of the financing for. So who can say? But yeah, it's a scenario where, Take-Two was ready to come in and help Microsoft and Embracer get this game out the door, but ownership of the property prevented a deal for going through. Here's a deal that did happen, though. A Call of Duty movie is officially in the works at Paramount, with a TV show possibly to follow. Folks, they said it could never happen, but here we are. Call of Duty, the movie. Now, if I'm being honest, I'm more interested in Call of Duty, the musical, but I guess we'll have to wait for an off-Broadway production of Call of Duty, the musical. This was an agreement between the good folks at Activision and Paramount. Paramount will produce and distribute a live-action film set inside the Call of Duty universe, though it's not clear which of the more than 30 games it will be based on. According to Variety, while the deal is for a single Call of Duty movie, it encompasses the potential for Paramount to expand the Call of Duty universe across film and TV. David Ellison, who is the chairman and CEO of Paramount, said, "As a lifelong fan of Call of Duty, this is truly a dream come true." Now, I must be honest with everybody. I don't think David Ellison is truly a lifelong fan of Call of Duty, because I believe he is older than Call of Duty, which would not make him actually a lifelong fan. You would have to have the thing has to, like, I can say, like, I started watching Star Trek. Speaking of fine Paramount products, I started watching Star Trek. Even if I get through all of the Star Trek, I still can't say I'm a lifelong fan, because I started watching Star Trek when I'm 30. So if David Ellison started playing Call of Duty at 20, I don't know how old he is. He still can't call. It doesn't matter. It's all silly. It's fine, whatever. But David Ellison's not a lifelong fan of Call of Duty. He goes on to say, "From the first Allied campaigns in the original Call of Duty through Modern Warfare and Black Ops, I've spent countless hours playing this franchise that I absolutely love. Being entrusted by Activision and players worldwide to bring this extraordinary storytelling universe to the big screen is both an honor and a responsibility we don't take lightly." Here is my question. What's a Call of Duty movie? No, what is a Call of Duty movie? Because when you think about, like, even if you go back to the first 3 Call of Duty games, which were World War II, those games were just ripping off war movies, right? They were just doing, they were just taking ideas and scenes and whole scenarios from, Thin Red Line and Saving Private Ryan and all, like, it, they were just doing Saving Private Ryan. That's what Call of Duty was. So when I hear that they're doing a Call of Duty movie, I think to myself, oh, they're making a movie based on Saving Private Ryan. Well, that's weird. They already made a movie based on Saving Private Ryan. It's called Saving Private Ryan. What are we doing? Now, obviously, Call of Duty's moved away from the World War II. They've gone into modern warfare and post-modern warfare and advanced warfare and Black Ops. I'm not saying there's not room to take ideas and concepts from Call of Duty and apply it to a movie, but especially if we're talking about the single player story modes that Call of Duty games have had, which I gotta be honest, I really like a lot of the Call of Duty single player story modes and campaigns. I think they're great. I thought Black Ops 6 was a great campaign. A ton of fun. What a game. That being said, a lot of those ideas were them just like ripping off like movies. And I get it. Great artists, good artists create, great artists steal. Quentin Tarantino said whatever, all that stuff. Like, I get it. But what does a Call of Duty movie look like? So if we zoom out a little bit to what a Call of Duty looks like, we're basically looking at a scenario where there are different sub-series within Call of Duty, right? You have the Modern Warfare series, which is about the global war on terror. It's a more boots on the ground, modern military, you think warfare. If you saw the movie Warfare, they're leaning into stuff a little more like that, right? If you think about advanced warfare, they were wall running in the future with spaceship dogfights and robots, and I think one of the guys from Game of Thrones was in advanced warfare. You could go that direction. They probably won't go advanced warfare direction for a variety of reasons. Or do they go in the Black Ops direction? And if you go Black Ops, I mean, at that point, you're just making like the Blacklist. You're just making your like section, like, and I don't mean this in like a derogatory way. It's just like, bear with me here. If you go Black Ops, essentially what you're making is like you could easily make it a like Suicide Squad / Star Trek Section 31 / like Thunderbolts or Guardians of the Galaxy to some extent, sort of like ragtag group of misfits who have to do the dirty work that you have to do the dirty work that like no one else can know about, right? Like, while the Modern Warfare boys are out there boots on the ground right in front of everybody and saving the day, for the world to see, we're out here doing the dark, dirty business that you're not supposed to know about. We're taking pictures of the president so we can perform a heist and do all this shit that, would get us disavowed by the government. Like that's Black Ops, right? That they do the dirty work you're not supposed to know about, which also means that they could lead into the direction of spy stuff, right? You could go a, spy direction of, it's like, Mission Impossible. It's like a Bond, like a 24 type thing. Like you could go, I think, a lot more directions with a Black Ops inspired Call of Duty movie. But again, it's also like Call of Duty is also very much like, I don't know, dude, it's war. What is it good for? Maybe we'll find out in the next 4 hours of the story mode. But it's probably not good for anything. What I'm saying is I don't mean to like immediately dismiss the idea of a Call of Duty movie. They should have done this like a decade or earlier or later, whatever ago. They should have done this a long time ago. And while there are some directions that they can take it, I just want to recognize that a lot of what makes the story modes in Call of Duty cool is that you're basically just reenacting various scenes from movies in a video game. Do with that what you will, Paramount. But you know what? Hey, it could be all right. You know, you give me like a 2-hour, kind of dumb spy movie, I could get into that. If you wanted to, I saw Warfare. Like, Warfare is the most recent, like, military movie I saw. And that movie is just like, like an hour, 20 minutes of setup and then like an hour of just horrific gunfights. And I thought the movie was okay. We could do worse than Warfare. So they could go in a variety of directions. We'll see how it turns out. This is, in my opinion, the most fascinating news story to come out this week. And I'd love to share it with you. The headline reads, PS5 is an unexpectedly large barrier for Monster Hunter Wilds sales, so says the president of Capcom. They said that the Monster Hunter Wilds sales have been hindered by the high price of the PlayStation 5. This is from Video Games Chronicles. We got Chris Scullion on the beat here. In an interview with Nikkei, which was held in May, but was published on the site this weekend, Hiroto Sugimoto was asked about the release of Monster Hunter Wilds and its initial sales of 10 million units in the first month of release. Sugimoto said the goal of 10 million units in the first month was an internal one at Capcom, so in that respect, the sales were on track. But he also noted that continuing to build on these sales could be trickier given the price of current generation hardware. Replying to a question about having to build on that initial 10 million, Sugimoto replied via machine translation, saying, "That's correct. However, we also found that the barriers to the PS5 are incredibly expensive." He said, "The console costs around $540, factoring in the cost of the software and monthly subscriptions. It comes to around $675 at a one-time purchase. This is not an easily affordable price, especially for younger generations. This situation is not limited to Japan, but is similar overseas. Our next challenge is to overcome these barriers and get Monster Hunter Wilds to more people. Sales and other events will begin in the future, so we are currently developing a strategy to take advantage of these opportunities to boost sales throughout the year." Sugimoto then acknowledged the Nintendo Switch 2, saying its success at a relatively lower price point shows that affordability is still crucial for customers. He didn't hint at a potential Monster Hunter Wilds port for Switch 2, however. However, from GnittWitt, I don't know if I would necessarily call the Switch 2 affordable. It is cheaper than a PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X. Don't know if I would call the Switch 2 affordable, but I see where Sugimoto was getting at. They stated the Nintendo Switch 2 was released in June of 2025 at a price of 49,980 yen, and the response was better than we expected. While prices vary by country, this reaffirms the high level of cost conscious among the ordinary consumers. Capcom acknowledged in its financial results in July that sales of Monster Hunter Wilds have been soft for the period, but attempted to put a positive spin on it by pointing out sales figures elsewhere in its catalog. So what do you like? What do you think? Like, I recognize that there are going to be like if we just use PlayStation 5 as the barometer for getting people into the current generation of consoles, right? What is a game that would get somebody to buy a PlayStation 5? Right? We've seen a couple of these games come out, but even they have not seemed to have the lasting impact that we might have expected, right? You could look at something like Monster Hunter Wilds and say, well, I love Monster Hunter, but I can't get it on anything other than a PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, or S or PC, so I guess I'm going to go buy a PS5. Something similar happened with EA's college football from last year. That was the first college football to come out, and it was also the only EA sports game that was truly current generation only, whereas games like Madden and NHL, Football Club, they also come to PlayStation 4. So the only other game I can think of where someone would be like, I don't have a PS5, I have to go get a PS5 to play this game, is Grand Theft Auto 5. Or sorry, Grand Theft Auto 6, excuse me. Grand Theft Auto 6. So, the consoles are not going to get any cheaper. The cost of living is not going to get any more affordable. What does a company like Capcom have to do? Now, the other thing that we're kind of dancing around is a lot of the technical issues, especially when it comes to graphical performances and stuff like that, that have kind of plagued Monster Hunter Wilds. Like, Monster Hunter Wilds has been a popular game, at least out of the gate, but has not been an immediately smooth game. And I don't know if the word of mouth has really spread like wildfire the way that Monster Hunter Worlds did when that game came out. So I kind of look at this as a scenario of like, well, what does Capcom have to do? They probably need to put out a big update that improves upon a lot of the issues that, Monster Hunter Wilds had at launch. They need to fix a lot of the performances and stuff like that. That's probably where I would start, is how do we fix the technical issues with this game? And then you could also then move on to stuff like, sales and events and crossovers. Oh, we put Ryu from Street Fighter in, or maybe they already did, I don't know. But we put Leon S. Kennedy from Resident Evil in Capcom, and he's got a sword, and you can use it to fight a Giraffalos. I don't know. I'm trying to think of a monster from Monster Hunter. I can't. I think it is reasonable. To blame the price of consoles for a lack of game sales for next or current generation only games. I think that is a valid thing to criticize. The problem is that those consoles have only gotten more expensive since they came out. The cost of living has only gotten worse since those consoles came out. And in the case of Monster Hunter Wilds, it has not had the absolute smoothest launch. So I put the ball back in, Capcom's court, right? Like they have knocked it out of the park so many times that, like, maybe as a business, as a leadership, they thought that they could do no wrong, but they have to some extent misstepped with the release of Monster Hunter Wilds. And as a result, it is not sold nearly as well after that initial month. And it remains to be seen what the future holds for that game. Kind of going back to the Crystal Dynamic news, they also announced a round of layoffs in light of stuff like Perfect Dark being canceled and stuff like that. However, they said the new Tomb Raider game is unaffected. It is the third round of layoffs confirmed by the studio in 2 years. I wish everybody the best of luck. I hope they all land on their feet, and I would be curious to see how that next Tomb Raider game turns out. They also announced casting for the Tomb Raider show. Who is the lady? I've never seen her in anything, so you'll have to forgive me for not knowing who this lady is. This is from Variety. Tomb Raider live action series to begin filming in 2026 with Sophie Turner confirmed as Lara Croft. What was Sophie Turner in? Sophie Turner was in Game of Thrones. Great. I've never seen Game of Thrones. I don't know nothing about Game of Thrones. Sophie Turner is a blonde lady, and I guess people don't like the idea of Lara Croft being played by a blonde lady. But I would just like to remind people that you can do things with hair that stop them from being blonde. I could do things to stop me from being bald if I wanted to. But I like the idea of having a bald head and then wearing a white t-shirt, and I can go around looking like Mr. Clean, and I'll just be handing out magic erasers. Another quick news story here. There's going to be a quick news story segment because there are so many games that I've been playing that aren't Skate. So bear with me here. This is the last news story. A few weeks before the release, Mortal Kombat 2, the movie, has been delayed by 7 months. Warner Brothers reportedly delayed the Mortal Kombat movie so that it could perform better at the box office. The movie was supposed to come out 8 weeks from now. It has been moved to May 15th of 2026. This was a last-minute decision, was made purely for financial reasons, as movies typically don't perform well at the box office in October. I don't know. I don't know. If I went to the movies in October, I'd probably be going to see a horror movie, which Mortal Kombat is not a horror movie. It claimed that the test screenings for Mortal Kombat 2 have been strong, so this potentially influenced the decision to shift the film to a potentially more lucrative period. The Mortal Kombat 2 movie sees the champions, now joined by Carl Urban as Johnny Cage, pitted against one another in a battle to defeat the Dark Rule of Shao Kahn. It was first announced in January 2022, following the success of the previous year's movie. Mortal Kombat, the 2021 film, was helmed by Simon McQuoid, making his feature directorial debut. McQuoid returns for the sequel, which is written by Moon Knight's Jeremy Slater. I'm going to say this right now. The Mortal Kombat, the original Mortal Kombat movie is still the best Mortal Kombat movie, but 2021 movie is okay. Like it's fine. Actually, I really like the casting. There was some really good casting in the recent 2021 Mortal Kombat movie. Joe Taslim as Bihan was solid. Very, very good choice. And Hiroki Sanada, he was in such shows as he's the main like dude in Shogun. Hiroki Sanada played Scorpion. So you had Joe Taslim as Sub-Zero, Hiroki Sanada as Scorpion, and I was like, these fucking guys were made to play these two dudes. Great casting for that. So, hey, maybe this next movie is going to be good. I got to be honest, I don't love Carl Urban as Johnny Cage. I also don't love Johnny Cage. Like, Johnny Cage is okay, but I don't know if Johnny Cage needs to be the main guy in a Mortal Kombat movie. But you know what? We'll have to wait longer to find out, because Mortal Kombat 2 isn't coming out until May 15th, 2026. We're going to take our final break. When we come back, we're going to talk about all of the video games that I've been playing, and there's a lot of them. Stick around. We will be right back. Welcome back to the program. Breaking news. 007 First Light has a release date, March 27th, 2026. That's going to be here sooner than you think. That's soon, as far as I'm concerned. I haven't checked the stream and stuff that they did, because I was doing my own stream over here, but you can go check that out. I think PlayStation ran that as part of their state of play, so go check that out. Speaking of PlayStation, I have finished Marvel's Spider-Man 2. I even got the Platinum Trophy to prove it. And man, what a video game. Man, that has become easily my favorite game of 2025 so far. Really, really enjoyed my time with it. I think that story picks up, and I think that story is a lot of fun. I think while that game is significantly bigger than something like a Miles Morales, and is even bigger than something like a original Marvel Spider-Man game, I think the game does a better job of justifying its length and its existence for as long as it asks you to play it. And I also think that like the side content is very doable. Like you can do, like, it took me, I think 30 hours to do everything that Spider-Man 2 had to offer. And I was more than happy with that. I was more than happy to walk away from that game having spent about 30 hours being like, well, I think my work here is done. Like that's fine. I don't need a game to necessarily be like a 60. Sorry, it took me 33 hours. 33 hours, excuse me. But yeah, I don't need a game to be like as long as it is. Like I don't need, again, I don't need it. I just don't need it. So I got to say, like, obviously there are some technical issues that game has, some stuttering, performance isn't as good as Miles Morales and stuff like that. But overall, man, Marvel Spider-Man 2 is a hell of a game. Really enjoyed my time with that. I think that story picks up and is a lot of fun. I enjoyed it enough to get all the trophies and all of that stuff. Just absolutely loved the game. So I would say right now it is probably my favorite game that I've played so far this year. Nobody quite does a single player story based game like Sony does. I am almost a little curious to get to go through the game one more time and get the New Game Plus. I'd be curious to see what unlocks and stuff you get as part of New Game Plus. Actually, let's just do it right now. Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 2 New Game Plus. What do you get? Out of curiosity. What's added? Well, they just this fucking website. The no offense to the site that I'm on, it does not actually do a very good job of telling you what you get. Okay, how about the PlayStation website? Does that tell me? Oh, I just want like a list of things that are included. Is that too much to ask? Okay. Is it? I don't. Oh man. Okay, it's like ultimate levels, golden gadget styles, and more. So it's like different styles of the suit. Okay. Okay. I still don't have a full great understanding of everything that's included, but I might take a look at it anyways because I enjoyed the game that much. But I might just go back and fart around with it. We shall see. Also, this is a recent game that came out that I fired up. I didn't have it on the list, but I gotta mention it now. Gears of War Reloaded. I fired up just a tiny bit. I must admit, a tiny bit of Gears of War Reloaded. That is the remaster re-release of the first Gears of War game. This is also the first Gears of War game that is available on PlayStation. So, Gears of War Reloaded is a remaster of Gears of War Ultimate, which is a remaster of Gears of War. They have not done a ton to Gears of War Reloaded. And I say that as someone who thinks they didn't do a ton to Gears of War Ultimate Edition. But hey, you can play it at 4K, 60 frames per second, 120 frames per second in multiplayer, all that stuff. To me, Gears of War Reloaded is the least essential game that Microsoft has put out on PlayStation so far. And I think the real reason for that is because Gears of War, the first Gears of War, shows its age. It does. You know, I get it. Everybody gets old. You have no control over it. But Gears of War shows its age in a way that I don't know how receptive PlayStation fans who have never played a Gears of War game would be to the idea of playing this old video game that looks slightly nicer than it did when it originally came out. For a couple of reasons. One, it's just the first game. It's like you are just playing, you know, there are There's Gears 1, 2, 3. There's the prequel, Gears Judgment. There's Gears of War 4. And there's Gears of War 5. And then they're making a prequel, another prequel called Gears of War EA, but that's not out yet. So on like one level, it would be like, okay, we're getting people interested in the story of the game, and then they'll find out what happens, you know, before all of this in Gears of War EA when that comes out next year, the year after, whatever. But from like a gameplay perspective and a mode perspective and a content and just an overall quality, Gears 2 and 3 blow away almost everything that Gears of War 1 has to offer. There's no horde mode, right? And in terms of the set piece and the moment and the gameplay and the different scenarios that the people find themselves in throughout the story, like Gears 2 and 3 are much more interesting games. I really like Gears 4, which was supposed to be the start of a new trilogy, and then Gears 5, people didn't love Gears 5. I never played Gears 5 that much, but it's like if you put the Uncharted games on a Xbox, but you only had Uncharted 1. Like imagine for a moment you had heard all the stories about, oh, Gears of War or Uncharted or whatever, and then you just put Uncharted 1 on an Xbox. I don't think it would do what it needs to do. I mean, hell, Uncharted 4 and The Lost Legacy didn't do what it needed to do when that came out on PC. So I think when you give like a new audience such a slim scope of context for the overall games in that franchise, I think it just becomes a total write-off. Or it can become a total write-off. Because I also recognize that there are probably some Xbox fans who eventually moved on to PlayStation who have been dying to get that hit of nostalgia. I'm going to be honest, I have no nostalgia for Gears of War whatsoever. And to be honest, I am mostly disinterested in nostalgia in general because I'm far more interested in how something actually performs and operates and holds up today. Right? So, in my opinion, Gears of War Reloaded doesn't really hold up, and there's not a lot of reasons to play it beyond nostalgia. And I don't care about nostalgia most of the time anyway, so I am going to say that this is the last time I talk about Gears of War Reloaded. It is not for me. You know, I come back to No Man's Sky every now and then because I hear, oh, they added these crazy updates. This huge new thing is in the game. And the big update now is that you can have these giant Corvette like star cruisers, like these massive ships that you can pilot and own and operate. And the problem when they add stuff like this to No Man's Sky is that as a lapsed player who was incredibly casual, it's very hard to seek out the cool new stuff in No Man's Sky. It also becomes, I think, hard to figure out what's new and what isn't. And this was like 4 updates ago where this one just did, it's hard to track, I think, the cool stuff. So I fired up No Man's Sky and I was like, okay, I want to get a Corvette. And I went to Google and I was like, how do I get a Corvette? And basically people were, people have guides on finding cool stuff to do in there are guides for every game you could ever possibly want, right? It's not just games like Minecraft or Stardew Valley or No Man's Sky or Fallout 76 that have these like multi-layered steps of like, here's how you craft the perfect shovel in Stardew Valley. Here's how you make the best starship in No Man's Sky. Like, they're guides for everything, but I wanted to see how I could get the new Corvette starships in No Man's Sky. And I went to Google and I found a guide, and the guide basically says, you can just buy the initial parts to get started and build your Corvette and then slowly upgrade from there. Like, you can basically get in on the ground floor pretty easily with a pre-built, non-customized Corvette in No Man's Sky. You just need a lot of money to do so. And I was like, okay, how much money do I have? And I looked and I had like enough money to maybe buy one component for the Corvette in No Man's Sky, right? And then I had to pause for a moment and I thought to myself, like, well, let's see what I have right now. And I have some big starship already in No Man's Sky, but I guess it's not a Corvette. It's like a frigate or something. Like it's some other ship that I could like fly. I have a ship in No Man's Sky that's so big I can fly my other ship into it. Okay. I'm like one of those billionaire Jeff Bezos people that like has a little yacht that that docks into their mega yacht. I'm already there in No Man's Sky. I don't know how I got there, but I am. But in order to get this bigger Corvette, I would need a lot of money to buy the stuff. And I had to pause for a second. I was like, okay, I can go to Google and I can type in how to make lots of money in No Man's Sky, or I could turn the video game off. And the reason why those are the two options that popped into my head is because sometimes when it comes to a game like No Man's Sky, Minecraft, Fallout 76, Stardew Valley, Disney Dreamlight Valley, whatever these other games that I've been playing that are like survival, crafting focused. And I'm not saying this happens to all of these games. I'm just kind of painting with a broad brush here. But what I'm saying is when it comes to some of these games that are very focused on creativity and crafting and survival and exploration and do your own thing, make your own fun. When you try to actually see the cool stuff and go down the path of acquiring upgrades and items and stuff, at times it can feel less like play and more like work. And I know with a lot of these games, they want to have a progression system and upgrade system and modes of play that feel fresh and exciting and interesting, no matter if you are just a brand new player or someone who's been playing for, 600 hours that finally get to be there when they unlock the ability to get a Corvette and everything in between. I get it. But for me, there was just a little bit of a disconnect with No Man's Sky where I just felt like this game kind of feels like work. This feels like if I were to go through the steps of like, because I don't remember what I was doing when I loaded up my game of loaded up my game in No Man's Sky. I had no idea where I was. I knew that I had built a base. I knew that I think I have a land vehicle. And I totally forgot that I had a big like freighter thing. Like I totally forgot about that stuff. So when you go into that game having completely forgotten everything that you were doing and had plans to do, I think getting distracted by new updates that just require you to do more work, I think just kind of breaks for me. Like I'm not saying No Man's Sky is a bad game, and I'm not even saying that I might not that I won't return to No Man's Sky and try to fuck around or figure out where I'm at. Like there is fun to be had once you kind of regain your bearings and your sense of direction and sense of purpose in the game. But I think the disconnect I have with some of these games is more often they feel like, or not more often, sometimes when they feel more like work than they do play, the whole illusion is worn off. And I'm just like, I don't want to go gather these resources to build this thing that's just going to make me upgrade the thing I have so that I can gather more resources to build the thing to upgrade the thing that I already have. And so on and so forth. I understand that there's like a real carrot on a stick approach to that stuff, and that's fine. But at some point I'm just thinking to myself, what am I actually doing? This similarly happened to me when I fired up Disney Dreamlight Valley, a game that I have spent less time with than No Man's Sky, but feel like I made more progress in. And it's a similar scenario where I'm just like looking at this list of tasks. No, Disney Dreamlight Valley does a better job of presenting you with tasks of like, oh, help Goofy find his missing, fishing rod. Help Donald, help Scrooge McDuck build these signs to attract more people to his business. Help Ursula get out of this cave and that she's trapped in, and all this. Like it gives you much more list of like things to go and do, but it's still a thing of like, okay, I have to make rope for Goofy and I have twine, but I don't know how to turn the twine into rope, and I don't have enough twine to make enough rope. So I have to go find the other thing that I need that'll be able to get turned. Like I think seaweed can get turned into twine, and then I can turn that twine into rope. And and again, similar sort of thing happened where I'm just like, whoa, Nelly, like maybe if I focus on like one of those games, I would be a little more inclined to be like, okay, I'll jump through the hoops to get back on track to where I was. But I don't know if it's going to happen with Disney Dreamlight Valley. It might happen with No Man's Sky, but we'll see. Stardew Valley is coming out on PlayStation Plus, and that got me thinking I should go back to I should go back to Stardew Valley. But again, similar thing would probably happen where I'm like, what the fuck am I doing in Stardew Valley again? That game's a little more chill than No Man's Sky and Disney Dreamlight Valley to some extent, so maybe I'll go back to it. Speaking of games I should go back to, Donkey Kong Bonanza. I gotta be in the final third of that 30%, 33% of that game. I gotta be getting close to the end. But again, every time I fire it up, I just get distracted, running around, doing other stuff. I will say I don't love some of the level designs. Like, I think one of the things that's actually hindered some of my progression has been some levels that I just don't really care for. I think they're a little annoying to navigate with traps and stuff in the way. And I think that's maybe put a damper on some of the progression that I would have made otherwise. But I still really enjoy Donkey Kong Bonanza. I think Spider-Man 2 takes the crown so far as my favorite game played so far this year, but Donkey Kong Bonanza I should get back into. A game that I did get back into was Avowed. I made a new save in Avowed, and I was just thinking to myself, you know what? I should just really commit to at least the main story in Avowed and see that through now that they've done some more updates to the game and see where I'm at. And I'm enjoying it. It's tough to like rank it in terms of favorite games of 2025 or anything so far, but I'm thinking I might have more to say on giving Avowed another chance next week. To prepare myself for Hollow Knight Silksong, I got into some of the other Castlevania, Metroidvania style games. I fired up Harmony of Dissonance and Aria of Sorrow, two Castlevania games that originally appeared on the Game Boy Advance. I'm playing them on the Switch 2. And I really liked Harmony of Dissonance, but at some point I just felt like I was losing track of where to go. I think the castle design in Harmony of Dissonance isn't quite as well thought out as I would have liked. And I think the problem with a game like Hollow Knight or Castlevania or Bloodstained or any of that stuff is like, you want to have fun exploring, but you also want to be able to get back on track to where you need to go after you've found the secret items and enemies and stuff in the environment, and you want to get back on track. I think Aria of Sorrow does a much better job of just being a better playing game. It's a much tighter feeling game overall, while also a better designed castle layout. But if you've never played, like a castle, like one of these Castlevania games, I still think Symphony of the Night blows away all of these games that I've played and probably will play. But Aria of Sorrow is a pretty decent game. It's part of the Castlevania Advanced Collection. I also got the Castlevania Dominious Collection, which includes the Nintendo DS games, like Order of Ecclesia and stuff like that. And I'll probably get to those eventually, but I was kind of playing those to prepare myself for Hollow Knight Silksong, which comes out tomorrow. So we'll probably have something to say on Hollow Knight Silksong next week on the podcast. I'm hoping that like next week I can tell you more about Avowed and maybe some more Donkey Kong Bonanza and some more Hollow Knight Silksong. That is going to do it for the podcast this week. I have been GnittWitt. You can go to linktree.com/GnittWitt, GnittWitt, for all of the links to all of the things I do all over the internet. And make sure to tell folks that the Glitch Report podcast is available wherever you get your podcasts. I have been GnittWitt. This has been Glitch Report, and we're going to get the hell out of here. Thank you so much for listening and for watching. Take it easy.